Dude, you are getting well. Dudes, welcome, dudes of all genders. It's great to have you here. We are unlocking. This is a conversation I am so excited for, and it's been a couple weeks in the making. I have the honor and privilege of introducing a very special guest today. We're talking about unlocking the power of self-love with Reverend Michael Long. And what you can count on is some real deep dives into the heart and the power of love and the journey that all of us are on, learning how to love ourselves and what we may not know about how powerful and how accessible that really is. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a guest I'm honored to have, Reverend Michael Long. Welcome, Reverend.
Thank you. Hello. How are you?
I'm doing better now that I get to be with you in this space today. It's such an upgrade in my day. So thank you so much. We know your time is valuable, and we're so grateful that you're spending it here with us.
My pleasure.
If you're listening right now, if you're live, please type dude in the comments so we know that you're live. And if you have any questions for Michael along the way, please type them in the comments below. So, Michael, you're a reverend. Would you like to tell us? I love hearing about your journey, but just to start, what are you a reverend of?
I am ordained by the Canadian International Metaphysical Ministry. So that's the body that has allowed me to. I'm an officiant as well. So I do life celebrations. So I've done a few weddings, and I've done one life celebration so far. Sadly, it was a sad but beautiful honor that the one of the weddings that I did, the groom's mother passed away, and she put it in her will that she wanted me to do her life celebration. So it was a very nice honor.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is beautiful. Well, thank you for those who don't know what that metaphysical work might be. And shout out to Canada today for everyone listening, Canada representing here. Yeah, tell us about what that is. What does that mean for those of us who may not have heard that before?
Metaphysics is basically the study beyond what we know, beyond physics, and so it's basically opening yourself up to the idea, the essence of what's behind everything.
Mm-hmm. And so you're ordained in that. So what would that what's that process like?
Oh, it's a lengthy application process and interviews, and then they ask you to go through the Course of Miracles throughout the year, and they check in on you. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, so the Course of Miracles.
Yes.
Familiar with that as well.
Yeah.
Michael, tell us a little bit about your journey. You've mentioned self-love. We're here to talk about that today. And, maybe I'm sure some of us listening may still be on that journey. I know for me, it's a daily reprieve of self-love and how we can learn to love ourselves a little bit more. And many of us, I find, put a lot of other people first, especially if we're providers, moms, dads, people of service. What's been your journey of self-love? Did you ever struggle with that? And if so, how did you learn to be the man you are today? The pure love and light you are today?
Well, I think I'm kind of the opinion that you have to go through hell to get to heaven. So I've been through my own hells, and that's what led me to encourage, to help others, ease the transition into their own heaven. Once upon a time I was full of, I had my dark days where there was abuse in the family, and so I was, full of hate and self-loathing and anxiety and depression, and I was once upon a time diagnosed as unipolar, always depressed or average. So I was, there was a lot of unlove in myself at once upon a time. And gratefully, at one point in time, after I was leaving the Catholic Church, I was introduced to Taoism, and that was, the Tao Te Ching. You've heard of that?
I'm familiar with it personally.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book, and so I used one or two as a koan, and that was like training wheels to learn how to meditate. And it's really all about acceptance, and by doing that was, again, learning how to lower the mind chatter, and meditating, which is the most important thing, to come back to stillness and centeredness.
Hmm. Well, that's quite a journey, Michael, and thank you for sharing your truth from going from that state of, suffering and dis-ease
Hmm.
from childhood and from those spaces. And I find so many adults who are maybe in the healing world. Some of us, I know many of us have been through hell to get there. It's not always, we didn't just find it just because we were like, let's wake up and become healers. But,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
and and it was a lengthy process too, because I did do a lot of work on myself through this support group that I helped run for almost 25 years. It's called Strength to Walk in Freedom Together.
hmm,
So I took advantage of, because just because I was helping with facilitating the group at times, I took advantage of the hot seats as well, and so I did a lot of unloading there too.
that's incredible. Well, I love hearing that. That's reminds me a little bit of the work we're doing at Dude Nation to
Hmm.
hold some space so that we can walk together. Um, that's a great example of a way that you have given yourself care and love. Um, what are some ways for those of us who are listening out there right now? Hi and welcome, dudes. What are some ways that those of us who are still on that journey, maybe struggling with love or self love, um, that you might recommend we? What are some tools that have worked for you?
Well, the most important thing is acceptance. Is, looking, being reflective, and looking at where you are in life and what you don't like, and accepting it, to play tai chi with that energy. Because all we are is energy. I mean, we are literally creating the idea that we're manifesting ourselves in bodies, and it's through a computer on right now, and so it's coming back to the source. There's a beautiful in the Taoism, it's like trace back to the manifestations, and when you recognize the mother, then you'll find peace. And it's coming, and the whole point is coming back to peace, looking within.
The whole point is coming back to peace and looking within. So being
Yeah.
willing,
And
this journey of self-love, like how many of us out there have not really been willing to slow down and even look at? I find a lot of men are like, nope, I'm not going to do that. Definitely not going to share that with other people. I got some thumbs up right here.
yeah.
Um, right. So this is an uncomfortable thing. There was a man today who came to the dude circle and had said he'd done a lot of uncomfortable things, but he was growing so much as a result. Like, and that for me is the definition of courage. Is I'm afraid every day. I just walked onto the campus of Omega, where I'm going to be leading a group of men in the Dude Deep Dive, our men's retreat. And I've never actually been inside of the campus or facilities. And it was uncomfortable for me at first. I felt like a new kid on campus. People are like, are you lost? Do you know where you're going? And the gift was for me was saying, yep, I'm totally lost. And I'm enjoying exploring my way. And yeah, I'd love to know where something is. And just declaring it, that was a way for me. But what are some of the other ways for you? You mentioned the group too, right? So maybe finding as a group dynamic been helpful for
Yeah.
you?
Well, there's no shortage of help available out there. So it's recognizing, again, looking within, to hang on a second, I'm not happy, and maybe I need help. So and the help is available. So
Mm,
there's no shortage of therapists and group work out there, and even online supports systems. Like that support group that I helped run is still going, and it's online as no well now.
that's extraordinary. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful to hear. So if there's anyone out there who could use support, please feel free to send us a message here. And I'll share Michael's website as well so that you can get in touch with him. Um, Michael, what are some of the other ways we might practice or start to gain some self-love today, especially for us adults? Like many of us are out there grinding, trying to show up for everybody else. Like how I've mostly what I hear is I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what would
uh,
you say to all of us, maybe who are struggling a little bit and used to showing up for other people, but don't necessarily experience the time or privilege, that some of us think, self-love is a privilege. I say it's a birthright.
yeah.
But I've found a lot of people don't know where to start, how to access it. So I just wondered if there's some other tools that you found helpful or that you may want to share with our audience today.
Well, one thing that I do when I do I do energy work as well, and one thing that basically is looking at your story, and because
Mm,
all we are is a story, really, and then we once we come to a sense of awareness, a greater sense of awareness, then we have that ability to change the story to our choosing. Again, it's playing tai chi with the energies that we were to what we prefer, and it's looking at and when I do the energy work, I talk about the chakra symbolically, like fears, shame, guilt, anger, resentments, griefs. What are some of the old stories that you have that hold emotional tension that need to be given a healthy expression in order to have space to to receive what you prefer.
mm. So you're talking about energy work. So you kind of slipped that in. I don't know if anybody caught that, but Michael's talking about he does energy work. So that's another thing you could do is work with someone else, right? That's not,
Yeah.
or I mean, is this work you do with yourself that you do with other people? Is this something we can do at home right now?
Of course,
Um,
everybody can do that with themselves. I mean, there's a beautiful Jewish man who's quite famous, and he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within," and
mm,
and it comes from stillness. Be still and know that I am. And when we still ourselves to honor ourselves, we can honor those emotions that haven't been given that healthy expression. So honor the sadness that of the old stories, and honor the
mm,
the grief, the anger and resentments, because that's what holds us. That's where we get stuck, is because those old emotions weren't given a healthy expression in order to have that healthy detachment from it, in order to flow.
mm. You
Hmm.
said some really good stuff here. I'd love to just reflect back, if I may.
Of course.
Stillness, stillness, stillness. That's one of the things we're actually doing a master class this week on self-care, and one of the pillars of self-care is stillness, of wellness, well-being. And if we're not making time to be still, it's not a surprise that we don't know what we're feeling or what our needs are, or how to be in relationship or how to love ourselves. And yeah, stillness may not actually be convenient for some of you today. It may be a practice. I once had a girlfriend, we went to a she didn't know what she was going to get to. She was really into ashtanga and vinyasa and flow and moving and and kind of forgot about the whole point of it is to relax the mind. And we went to a restorative yoga class, and she had no idea that it was just laying still the entire time. It's supported in different ways, which I found the most incredible thing in the world. And she got up and ran out, and it became like a friction for a minute for us that day. And it turned out she just being that still was really uncomfortable for her.
Yeah.
And for many of us, that may be really uncomfortable. So, to those of us who may be experiencing that, I'd say, well, what would you say, Michael?
Well, I mean, there's so many things that we can do. Like there's somatic healing, and I've been trained as a Kundalini yoga teacher training, so I'm biased towards Kundalini yoga. It's
Hmm.
considered the yoga of awareness and the garbage cleaner. So it's doing those fast paced exercises to have that the somatic healing, and then it includes mantras and rest, and that's the most
Hmm.
important part, is to come back to stillness. And most of us are on overdrive, like our sympathetic nervous systems are like super on racing, and then we haven't balanced the parasympathetic nervous system to have that balance. So then our the sushumna is hitting the pineal glands, and remembering, oh, I'm literally the projector of the projections that I experience in my life.
Hmm. Can you say that again, just a little bit slower? The
Sure,
part about
sure.
projections.
It's the Mexican mother, from my mother. I have a tendency to speak quickly sometimes. So
That's great. No, I want to make sure that,
yeah,
this is gold. I want to make
it's
sure our audience grabs that.
it's coming back to science, and I'm a big fan of bringing logic back into what we believe in. And science says that nothing exists outside of consciousness. So we literally are the projectors of the projections that we experience in our lives.
Hmm. Hmm. We are the projectors of the projections that we literally experience in our lives.
Yeah.
I like that. So if we broke that down, we are literally, everything we see is a projection.
Yeah.
So that means we're projecting all the projections that we see.
Yeah. And that's what's so funny. The cosmic joke is we get what we ask for when we get out of our own way. And then we get caught up in the drama. Like there's one of the, again, the one of those expressions from the Tao is trace back the manifestation. So it's like remembering, it's like watching a horror movie and then you realize, oh shit, it's just there's just a camera, putting images on a wall, a screen, and then we get caught up in it. And then when we come back to stillness, we can come back to ourselves. Like if you close your eyes right now, and then observe your thoughts, who's observing the observer that's observing the thoughts? So it's coming back to remember that we are spirit, then mind, body, and
Yeah, I do. And this is soaking in. If this is resonating with you, please let us know. And you can learn more about Michael here. This is the most beautiful website at lightandlove.ca. That's so easy to remember. For those Americans who don't know that, that's what Canadians use instead of .com. It's actually very beautiful and common. I love it. So lightandlove.ca. And if you're just joining us, we are talking about the power of self-love, how to unlock it, what it makes available. And right now, you're in the middle of, the fact that we're learning from science that we are literally the projectors of the projections in our lives.
Yeah.
From Michael here. So, what are some of the ways? It is quite funny that we're, if we were that responsible for our lives, that's even, I've heard you say this before and I believe it, and yet it is funny because I forget to actually try it on. There's still days where I'm like, why? What am I doing wrong? I'm aligned.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready. So it's starting to be, I'm able to have a sense of humor about it. Some people may not right now. They may really be in it, in the shit, in the mud, in the thick of it with their families, their friends, money, job, like literally losing people in their lives. What are some ways that we could start to shift our mindsets today to start to love ourselves more?
Well, back to acceptance, it's allowing yourself to feel the feels fully, because that is when we get stuck, is when we don't give ourselves that healthy expression. So if you're angry, there's a good reason. There's an injustice that there's an unjust treatment happening, whether it's to yourself or someone else, and you're feeling these like rage or whatever, anger, and so honor that anger, and it's allowing it to the more, it's like the monsters in the closet. When you actually look at it, it's, oh, there was nothing there, it wasn't a big deal. The more, when we give it the loving attention, then it'll quiet itself enough, so then we can play tai chi with that energy to maybe utilize it to fuel us.
Well, how do you honor that anger, Michael?
Again, allow it. I'm feeling it fully. And whatever it is, there's sadness, of course. I mean, if we lose somebody in a relationship, or a loved one passing, it's sad. And the universe was kind enough to create these beautiful things called tear ducts for us. So it's giving it, allowing those tears to clear, to clear those emotions.
Yeah. So for some of us, or anyone listening who may struggle with feeling those feelings or not knowing what to do with their anger, and you're saying just allow it, that may feel occurs. Something tells me someone's out there like, it's the how do I just allow it? Where do I do that safely? What does that look like?
Well, the first thing is making that intention and making a choice. It's like, I don't have a pen on me here, but if you hold a pen and you just open your hand, you let go. and it's a choice. So it's deliberately, intentionally making that choice to accept it and flip the switch. Because at one
Mm,
point in time, I was so horrible in such a terrible spot that I was gonna get shock therapy, and then it's like, no, fuck that. And so I made that, conscious decision. No, this is where this I'm flipping the switch. So it's you know and treating. I know it can sound hard, but there's an expression, aditi devo bhava, and it's treat the unexpected guest as if God has arrived. And it goes
mm,
for thoughts and feelings and experiences. And it's, what is the gift here? What is it teaching me? Because if all we are is energy, and basically science has shown us that life is holographic, then it's us putting out something and then coming back to us. So what is the gift there? If we lost our job, well, hang on a second, maybe you hated your job, and the universe is saying, well, you didn't like that job, so I gave you the gift of losing it. you know and it's
mm,
going back to, when you go back to, again, when you quiet yourself long enough, that's when we can hear our intuition, and then we can be led by our spirit more.
mm. So thank you. I'm hearing choosing it, choosing dropping it, choosing to allow it,
Yeah,
choosing to listen or learn from it. And thank you for the quote again, remembering that even with anger, right? That's for, if you didn't catch on, that's the unexpected guest. It could be those things, those feelings
yeah,
that you're like, well, this is the unexpected and unwanted guest. But if what I'm hearing is the opportunity to start to allow that,
yeah,
um, if you allow them as if God has arrived, wow,
yeah,
then there's some beauty in my feelings. Maybe they're there to tell me something, and not always a great measure of reality, right? So if you were in your time, I'd love to just go back for a moment to, let's say, your dark night of the soul, when you were, told you are unipolar,
yeah.
you are permanently depressed, or
Hmm.
whatever they said to you.
Hmm.
Um, Walk us through the journey of that, from that darkness into the light. Like, what was some of the ways that you were able to crawl out of that darkness?
Well,
And what was
in
that like for you being there? I'd love to hear a little bit what that was like.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I was in essence suicidal for the first quarter. Like, I didn't want to. I hated God, hated my life, didn't want to be here. Uh,
How
you know,
old were you?
back in the day. Oh, just from as far as I can recall, that was the feelings until in my early 20s, and that's when around when I was like coming 25. That's when I made the cutoff. But
Mm,
but it was almost liberating in a sense, because it was like oh, I'm not crazy, even though it was, kind of diagnosis crazy. It was, oh, okay, there's a reason for it. But gratefully, I didn't, again, it's all choice. So gratefully, I didn't make the choice to just accept it and, oh, poor me. But I made
mm,
the choice to, oh, hang on a second, this is what it is, so this is what I need to work out of.
And thank you. Yeah. And what were, it's incredible that you even felt like you had a choice at that time and were able to choose something different.
Yeah.
That sounds like a moment of enlightenment to me.
Yeah,
um,
I'm not even sure I recognized it as a choice at the time. It was like, okay, I have to, because I was killing myself,
yeah.
ruminating over, if you think dark and dark thoughts, you're going to feel dark feelings. If you feel, you know, bad feelings, you're going to, bad thoughts, you're going to feel bad feelings. So
Mm.
I was literally killing myself by doing that. So I knew that I had to shift.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's worth saying, that potentially some of us are literally killing ourselves with how we talk to ourselves
Hmm.
and the thoughts we're choosing.
Yeah.
And one thing that helps me is, would I talk to my 5-year-old self that way? My 7-year-old self? Would I talk to my child that way? Would I let anybody else talk to me that way? Usually the answer is no, right? And we are those same beings of light and love that we are as children, I believe, born into this world. And sometimes the circumstances around us tell us that we need to start thinking and behaving differently in order to survive. And what I'm really hearing today is some access to life and to living. And so that's why I'm really pulling for, like, what are those things we can do? Because it's worth sharing that I was speaking to an incredible man today who is a veteran, and he said there are over 40 veterans a day taking their own lives because they don't feel that they have the support they need. 40 a day. And those are people who have been serving our country for a living. And that's why so many of them are feeling this way, mental health alone. And I myself have been suicidal in my past. I have gone through darkness that I never thought I would wake from, and darkness I never thought it was even possible to experience. And even still some days, and I've done a lot of conscious programming, my dream life can be quite dark. And so rather than getting terrified and going into my day that way, I actually do some programming and start to look at, and sometimes I replay those dreams, I learned this from veterans and PTSD and reprogramming, choosing a different thought. And for instance, and I'll come right back to you, Michael, but I would have dreams often about a tidal wave, like post 9/11, this apocalyptic experience and this huge tidal wave. And my mind and soul would revisit that. And one day I sat down and I did some meditation. I imagined it coming. And then I saw this like really friendly, I'm like, how could this turn out better than I can imagine? I saw this really friendly dolphin appear. It was like, come on, buddy, hop on my back. And I still remember that 20 years later now. That one moment I took to reprogram, because it changed. I stopped having the dream after that. It freed me of that. And I've gotten a lot of gifts of reprogramming from you and the work that you do. So from that dark space, Michael, coming back to you and that moment when you started to choose differently to get help, what were some of the modalities that helped to pull you out of the darkness?
Well, I mean, definitely a lot of the work that I did in the support group, of course, right? It was you don't. It's a beautiful process when you do group work, because you don't realize it, but when you're empowering others, you are empowering yourself, because we're all mirrors, right? And so that was a powerful aspect. But personally, I think the most important, most powerful, transformative thing for me was learning how to meditate through the Tao Te Ching, using one or two verses as a koan. Like, what the hell does that mean? And by doing so, that by thinking of what that meant, it was lowering my own mind chatter. And then again, like a training wheels, learning how to meditate, and just learn how to begin to still the mind. And it's always it's the Upanishads relate the mind to like the stallions. They're wild, but they can be tamed, and so we can tame our mind. And it's we go through waves. So sometimes I forget to remember to practice, and it's like, oh yeah, why am I a little messy? Oh, I'm having
the stallions have taken over. Freedom.
Yeah.
That's great. This is such beautiful advice you're giving us here. And it's amazing how much we need to hear about meditation and maybe think about trying it, to be still in today's culture. My buddy David Fulton calls it slow briety. Slowing down is actually the new sobriety, like the new mana of life is. And there's even a slow music movement. As a fellow musician, there's this beautiful band called Rising Appalachia.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, and the sisters who grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, so it's very dear to my heart. But they actually, they used to only tour by boat and foot and borrowed vehicles and vans, and they've done a lot of things to purposely slow down the touring life and to connect to the earth as musicians, and now successful ones. And I mean, you could argue that we're always successful in any area of our life we choose to be. And success is a whole nother conversation, which we'll get to Saturday if you guys are around. But for those right now, so we're coming back to, the ways we guide ourselves out of the dark night of the soul, back into love, back into self-love, back into light. And so much of it I'm learning again and being reminded is the stillness, is the listening, is the choosing, is the intention to do so. And a lot of what you're sharing here, Kundalini yoga, the ordained process you went through, the ordination, the communities, having you in my life, group work you mentioned, having these things for me, it keeps me accountable to remember this. Like having you in my life, seeing you regularly in the morning rush, like helps me remember, like to take myself less seriously, to have more fun, and to choose positive thinking. So I want to thank you. You are a reflection of that for me, and it also reminds me, like, yay, I'm doing good work because I'm attracting like beautiful, loving, light men into my life.
I love sharing that I'm a reflection, because I with loving, not with modesty, because I know Sat Kartar, God is the doer. I know that I'm beautiful, and there's a big difference between pride and being proud and being conceited. So I'm proud of being beautiful, and with that pride, others are allowed to see the beauty that, when somebody thinks of me as beautiful, it's because they're seeing what they would like to see in themselves, and know that they are.
And you do that's such a wonderful reflection, and you do such a great job of reflecting that, I feel, in life, that's why I even had that thought, like, oh, that must mean I did something well, because you always reflect and remind people of their love and their greatness and their power and their strength in love. So do you have some... Well, let me ask you some of the final questions. I think it's good to get there. If anybody has any questions I haven't asked so far, please drop them in the chat and comment. You can also reach out to me directly, send me a message here, and also contact Michael at lightandlove.ca. Michael, tell us a little bit about the energy work that you do today. If someone wanted to work with you today, and which I have, I can tell you my experience, but tell people a little bit about the practice that you offer today.
Well, it's a simple but profound process where I just listen to your story, and then we talk about the chakra symbolically. So talk about fears, shame, guilt, anger, resentments, grief, anything that you're hanging on to that is not serving you. Then we talk about what you want, and then we do the energy work to help you remember your Sat Nam, Namaste. In Kundalini yoga, their version of Namaste is Sat Nam, and Sat is truth or true, Nam is name or identity, and our true identity is a part of everything. For those who believe in God, God is by definition omnipotent, so therefore omnipresent. So all of us are swimming in that essence, and divine is of the nature of. So we are of the nature of God, and it's recognize our own divinity. And when we love ourselves the way we deserve, then we can recognize, oh, I love myself so much. We overflow with love and compassion that we see love in everyone, and we recognize their divinity.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's beautiful. I can just meditate on that alone for the rest of my life.
And it's a beautiful mantra, because when you break it down too, it's Sa Ta Na Ma, birth, life, death, rebirth, and we're constantly regenerating ourselves, or and so we're in a constant state of renewal, because in essence we're literally manifesting the idea that we're in bodies. And like when you put your hand in a river, it's never the same water. When you look at a candle, it is never the same flame. It is the wick being transformed into light, by the burning. So we are literally just particles in motion with emotions, seeing thousands of pictures per second upside down being interpreted in our brain from our own projector. It's crazy.
Yes, I believe in all that. whether you believe it or not, so it's science, right? So you could say, just go look it up.
Yeah.
My incredible business partner, Adam Lamb, his wife, Jennifer, is amazing. Also, healer and projector out in the world. Canadian, must be why she's so cool. And we were sitting in the kitchen one morning at breakfast, and with both of them, and she said, like it was remembering that we can only see a small point at a time with our eyes, and our brain actually makes up everything else around that, which I'm sure I was told at some point as a kid, maybe not, because a lot more has been revealed in science since we were kids. But that really, it blows my mind, because I'm like, no, I can see other things, but it's like, nope, that's your brain projecting all of that, right? So it's amazing if we can start to wrap our heads around the science, that we can actually have an entire shift.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to give a shout out to is just saying birth, life, death, and rebirth.
Yeah.
Because whether we like it or not, these are the rites of passage. We're one of the only cultures not to practice rites of passage culturally as a part of who we are. We've gotten so independent, I believe, in Western culture, that we've really broken from circle, from community, from tradition, from rites of passage that we actually need and are healthy to embrace. So if any of you know a man, or are that man, that would like to embrace some life's rites of passage, to dive deep on that, to experience some true healing, I want to encourage you to come to Omega with me in Rhinebeck, June 2nd to the 7th, in person. We have spots available for whether you're commuting or staying overnight, or want to stay in a tent, or feeling bougie. I want to encourage you to get in person and with some men, and if it's not this, a different group of people, and talk about this stuff. Talk about what's really going on, because inside of death comes rebirth. And inside of studying our rites of passage, we find that we're all going through this. So many of us are losing people we love. We will continue to lose people we love, and we actually get to find the miracles inside of that. And you, Michael, are a miracle to me. You remind me how beautiful life is.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to know if there's anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with today, if you could give us a message, or share about what I said, anything I said. Yeah,
well, back to the namaste and the birth, life, death, rebirth. There is a death when we take a look at the truth, and the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. Well, it can be a very bitter pill to swallow. So it is tough to look at ourselves sometimes, right? But it's tougher to experience the pain of not going through that. So just that encouragement that it's worth the effort, because outside of when you come back to center, that's where peace, love, joy is. It's that being centered. The kingdom of heaven is within. It's a true statement. And when we quiet the mind, we're balancing our left and right hemispheres of the brain, our in and out breath, and God is in the stillness.
I mean, that's beautiful. We could leave it right there. But before we do that, I have some questions that I love to ask all my guests. And the first one is, if your life were a movie, like a blockbuster film, what would you name it?
Well, one of my favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life. So same title.
Oh, that's great. That's beautiful. All right. Now, if you could cast anyone in it as your parents,
as my
who
parents,
would you cast? Yeah, as your parents in the film.
Oh, I'd have to think about that. I guess Rita Moreno could play my mother.
Okay.
My mom's Mexican. I'm trying to think of somebody who could be my father.
You can even use cartoon characters. We've had people use anything and
Yeah,
everything before.
I'm trying to think of some characters, actors who are out there that maybe I'm forgetting his last name. Colin.
Farrell?
Yeah, the Irish guy. I think he could
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Just because he's starting to get old, but then he could be, make himself look older. He's a good actor sometimes.
Yeah, and he's kind of
Yeah,
fierce.
yeah.
Yeah, right on. Okay, cool. And who would you cast as yourself?
Good question. I'm trying to think who's out there. I mean, he's younger, but what's his name? Is it Schwartz? The from
Jason
the
Schwartz?
huh?
Jason Schwartz?
I think that might be his name. From all those oh, I'm drawing a brain fart right now with all
Yeah,
those.
me too. The director, the one
Yeah,
Moonrise Kingdom.
yeah, he's
All the
great.
films. Yep, someone listening will know what we're talking about. One of my
Yeah,
favorite filmmakers, and now I'm blanking on his
I'm
name too.
blanking out
I
too.
love all his movies. That's Jason Schwartzman, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the first
Um,
thing that comes to mind.
that's cool. That's fascinating. Uh, what's your favorite curse word?
Oh, shit. In equanimous mind, sorry, in Buddhism they call it equanimous mind when you're flowing, and in Taoism it's called beginner's mind. In Kundalini yoga they call it shunya or shanaya, that zero state where the magic happens, where you and God, me and God are one. And to me it's,
Mm.
oh shit, because you ask for things, you put it out there, and then when you're not attached to it, you get what you asked for, and then because you're not attached to it, you forget that you asked for it, and it's like, oh shit, I forgot I asked for that. And then when you make silly mistakes, oh shit, I forgot. I forgot I'm playing a game and I'm creating this drama that created that.
I love that. And ever since you shared that with me, I couldn't wait to ask you that question. I was hoping that's what you'd say because I now hear you saying that in my head, and it's way
That's
funnier.
the
I just
point.
see Michael going, "Oh shit!" It's like, oh,
Shit.
like a little Buddha on my shoulder,
Yeah,
a little cursing Buddha of love.
that's the point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Seeds of love with shit.
yeah, I mean, that's why I had to name Dude Nation this because I had to learn to stop taking myself less seriously, and I had to like force it, Well, literally, I had to like just put it out there because that was something I used to be ashamed of, and I was like, no, this is my shit, and I love it now.
Yeah.
Um, so,
On
do you
that
have
note,
any
and
hidden?
you need to get certified, brother.
Oh, yes, yeah. There's actually certified dudes out there.
Yes,
Yes, I'm not
I'm a
yet
certified
certified.
dude.
That is so cool. If you don't know what he's talking about, just look it up. Certified dudism.
Yeah.
Um, I'm getting certified as a chief well-being officer right now through the World Happiness Organization.
All
And
right.
it's extraordinary because it's with people all over the world. And I'm one of the only English as a first language speakers. And so there really are people all over the world doing some light work. And so just shout out to them.
Wonderful.
Michael, if you could wave a magic wand. Oh, sorry, I forgot one thing. Any secret or hidden talents that we, might not know about?
Oh, well, yeah. There's, I'm a big fan of Carl Jung, and our shadows aren't always bad things that we hide about ourselves. It could be good stuff. So, I have a lot of poetry. I have a book called A Few Long Words that is yet to come out,
Mm.
and I believe, there's a beautiful expression: if you can walk, you can dance. If you can talk, you can sing, and something like that. And so I believe, everybody has a voice, so everybody can sing. Just not everybody can sing well because of lack of training. But I have a beautiful
Mm.
voice too, so I look forward to sharing that as well.
Ooh, I
Yeah,
can't wait to hear it.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And
Um,
and and I've done some acting too, so I look forward to returning to that at some point in time too.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah,
we're all on a stage. You're on stage right now. It's beautiful. It's
yeah.
it's so wow. So I see. I love learning more about you and that. When you're like talking about our darkness and we all have our shadows, I thought you were gonna be like, so I'm a dominatrix, like really own my shadows now. I was like,
Yeah,
cool, dude.
never got into that, but
Yeah. Well, you know where my brain was going. So Michael,
Fine.
if you
That's your
could,
thing.
not yet, who knows? Every day is a new day.
It is.
If you could wave a magic wand and give the world one gift today, what would it be?
Love always. My symbol. Oh, it's not on my shirt. My symbol at my website. It came out of a meditation, and it's the idea that we're swimming in consciousness, and there's no up or down in that space. So you don't know where. There's no direction, right? So if we're swimming in that space, it makes sense to love in every direction infinitely, and then life being holographic, it'll come back to us. So love everything you do. Love to me, love is the central source and force that unites us all, and it is the precursor to everything. There's the eightfold path. I think love is the first aspect for the eightfold path. It's the ninth the ninth fold, if you will.
Wow, it's so beautiful to hear another man talk about love and still being the answer, and love always. And if you could give all of us the gift of loving always, what do you see us all doing?
Loving ourselves so much. Love yourself so much that you're so filled with love and compassion that it overflows and spills to recognize the love and divinity in everyone else. Oh, we're all playing the game of Leela. The original game of Snakes and Ladders was Snakes and Arrows, and it was made for saints and seers. The idea that we're all born of cosmic consciousness, and the first place we'll land on is delusion, that we're ever separate from the source. And love is the source, and we're swimming in that source, and we are all reflections of it. So it's recognizing, love yourself so much that you can see that person, and you can see maybe they're a little bit of a mess, but you love them because you recognize they're playing their Leela.
Wow. Yeah, this is really good, Michael. This is a gift. Thank you for giving us that love right now. I'm experiencing it just being here with you. I really encourage anyone and everyone to go back and listen to this again, replay it. So many messages of love and accessing the power of your love. And may all of us overflow with love everywhere and love always. I love that. Dude, thank you for joining us, Michael. Reverend Michael Long.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been such an honor. And please go check him out, lightandlove.ca. Work with him. I've had some incredible, beautiful healings with him. And today was one of those. So thank you for sharing your time so generously. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And if you haven't subscribed to Dude, You're Getting Well, please do so and spread the word. Share this with someone who could use it today. And if it's you, type me. Michael, I love you, dude. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Such a gift. Hold on, and thank you, audience.